are live. Thanks everyone for joining us here on Saturday, June 11th at the time we're recording this for the AAPI Go podcast. So we've got a full house this week. With us most weeks, we've got Eugene.
Hello.
And Raphael.
Howdy.
And TS. Cool. All right. Well, so lots to talk about this week there. I know that, Raph, we kind of missed you on the last podcast. What have you been up to lately?
I'm planning my escape from New York State because I have realized that I have been the frog in the pot of boiling water. I didn't realize it. I've known it all along. However, the boiling point, we got a little closer to boiling, and I've realized it's time to get out for reasons that we will get into because this state is one place you do not want to be right now.
Coincidentally, Boiling Point, delicious restaurant for hot pot. I don't know if they have that on the East Coast, but it's it's kind of like a West Coast thing. It's like a Taiwanese
hot pot's not a thing. Hot pot's not really a thing out here. There's like 2 places near me. Next time I'm out there, which honestly California is better than New York now. Next time I'm out there, let's go.
That is not a high bar to beat. I'm so sorry.
It isn't.
No, we actually have in Philly anyways. There's quite a few hot pot places. A lot more if you go to like North Jersey.
Nice. Yeah. It's the unofficial meal of AAPI Go. Hot pot, good times there.
Hot pot
right before our last event. Have to make it a thing. Just find a hot pot wherever we host an event and go from there. Cool. Well, Eugene, like I heard over in the chat that you got to fulfill some hashtag life goals / bucket list shooting today.
Yeah. So a buddy of the range who owns one of the local gun stores, he brought in a Barrett 50 cal. I think it was the M82A1. And we asked him, like, can we shoot it? And he's like, you got $6? Because, fun fact, 50 BMG is an expensive cartridge. But we scrounged around, found a few loosies, loaded them up, and I rattled my teeth. Fun fact, when you are shooting it prone, you must have your legs positioned correctly. Because the force of the recoil while prone does move your legs.
Did we just lose Eugene, or is that just me?
No, that was just you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So wait, the force of the recoil moves your legs. Are you talking about like you're risking the family jewels here, or?
It's not anything risky, but it'll be a much smoother ride if you have your legs set up in the right way.
And one more question. Do you think you can shoulder one?
Oh, definitely. If I was not at an indoor range, I could pick that thing up and fire it from the hip.
Oh, yeah. I'm not heavy enough to shoulder it properly. I think I could probably hip fire. Because the recoil, honestly, it's bad, but it's not like, oh no, I'm getting hit with the truck now bad. It's more like I'm holding something heavy and somebody's hitting it with a sledgehammer really hard.
Yeah, it's not a fun time when you're not able to properly brace.
Yeah, you just kind of slowly slide back. We should, somebody... There was a XKCD strip about, how many AKs would it take to levitate.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm thinking of a 50 BMG driven car.
Well, I'm not gonna try and jinx it, but I do have in my future. I am planning on getting the GM6 Lynx in 50 BMG. There is a dealer near me who is a official dealer for the Lynx. And I do not mind the 6-month wait period it takes to get here.
Yeah. Some type of Barrett is definitely in my spank bank if spank here means 290 grains of plate breaking goodness.
Ah, beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Or you can get 4570 because it doesn't matter if you break the plates if you make the plates touch.
Scott, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
I think your audio might be off.
So, Raph, why do you want to escape New York?
Well, let's see. As of September 4th, it's going to be illegal to buy any semi-automatic rifle without a permit from the state, the means of getting which they have not made clear. Soft body armor is now completely illegal and a Class E felony to possess, or it will be as of September 4th. Our red flag laws are now out the wazoo, definitely unconstitutional. It is now illegal in all contexts to own a magazine over 10 rounds. Even if you had one that you registered as an assault weapon during the whole ban, it's completely gone now. The slippery slope fallacy is not a fallacy in most cases. There's a couple others that I'm forgetting, but they passed 10. Oh, right, and you can't own a semi-automatic rifle if you're under 21. So pretty much, if you want to defend yourself and you're under 21 in New York State, your only option is really some kind of lever action if you want, any reasonable rate of fire for, shooting the people who are less than a mile away. It really, really, really sucks. I guess a straight pull would work, but that's impractical. Lever actions are meant for, practical use. Anyway, so this state wants to kill you. So I'm figuring it's probably best to leave.
What about the pistols? I heard there was a pistol thing too that they did.
Nothing new on pistols, as far as I know. It's pretty much just still awful.
The micro-stamping thing?
That's actually more of a nothing burger than it may seem, probably. Mm-hmm. So how that works is, unlike California, they haven't made, a safe register or anything. This one is pretty much when the technology becomes available, all manufacturers who are selling in the state have to adopt it within 3 years. So since it's not available and is probably next to physically impossible without some type of etched diamond firing pin, and still doesn't work on revolvers because they don't leave brass behind, I don't think it's really going to become a thing here because nobody's interested in opening the door to that. And honestly, microstamping is just really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
And possibly physically impossible.
I can definitely, my dad is actually an engineer. I won't go into what kind of engineer he is, but he's an engineer. And he verified that technology is the dumbest thing on planet Earth from an engineering perspective, for all the obvious reasons that, like you stated, right? Like you need a special type of diamond thing. Also, over time, I'm sure you've heard that eventually erodes. Like that firing pin eventually won't make that same mark over time. And he was
after 10 rounds, it won't make that same mark over time with current materials. Yeah. Firing pins rely on a concentrated, rather large amount of force on a very small point. And putting print on that point is not going to, it's going to make the firearm more likely to malfunction by, light fires or, poor primer contact. And it's also just going to wear away over time because guess what? The explosion coming back, because primers explode and that applies force to the firing pin. So when the firing pin hits, the primer is going to hit back and you're going to have something really, really tough to withstand that. So basically it's stupid, but thankfully the law, you could even construe it as coming from a place of genuinely wanting safety. So basically when this technology is available, we'll be able to use it to trace guns, which we have no problem doing anyway, and save lives. Welcome to New York State.
Yeah, unfortunately, the rest of the country doesn't seem like they want to be that far behind. We'll probably get into it, but I just want to note that the 21 to purchase any kind of firearm seems like a very popular stance with the anti-gun crowd.
Yeah, I mean, of course. The real answer is these same people who are pushing that, they all want 21 because your brain's not fully formed. Okay, 21 to vote. And they shut right up because that's their voting base and they know it.
I also like the one person's response when asked, why not also raise the draft age to 21 after just saying that exact same thing of, 18-year-olds aren't mature enough and aren't intelligent enough to own a firearm. Okay, let's raise the service age. Oh, no, but we need them to fight our wars.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think that it's really going to be a difficult thing going forward for anybody who wants to raise the age of gun ownership period to 21. Even handguns aren't banned for people under 21. You simply can't pass a background check to get them. You can still purchase them private party and build them yourself perfectly legally.
Not in New York City.
Nobody cares about New York City. It's not a real place. It's a magical, made-up place where unicorns are real and you die pretty quick.
Don't worry, New York can't hurt you.
Oh, New York can hurt me. But I completely forgot what I was talking about. Thanks for the great joke. Oh yeah, right. Age to purchase. But basically, all you can do is write some kind of stupid restrictions without actually raising the age of adulthood. Let's not forget the drinking age is only 21 because the federal government refuses to give road money to any states that don't raise it to 21 on their own. So even that's not like a federal law they can pass. And it would be extremely difficult to do that because you'd be raising some real questions about, what's the age of adulthood? Are we not letting 18-year-olds into the military anymore? Because I don't know if anybody else knows this, but the military relies on dumb kids straight out of high school who want free college. That's their bread and butter, and you cannot raise that age or recruitment will tank.
Cold hard truths.
Yeah. Scott is still completely inaudible.
I mean, he's not talking. Oh, no, there we go.
Scott has now become a mime.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, we can carry it. We can carry it. All right. So Eugene, what do you think about the whole raising the age limit thing?
I mean, there's a part of me that's let me put it like this. If you're going to raise the age of being able to exercise one of your rights, might as well raise it for all the rights. And if not, then you are simply making a bad argument that has very little backing or logic. And you simply want this passed because herder guns bad.
The real answer here is whatever age we think people are competent to sign contracts, that's the age that everything should be, including running for president. I think the 35 age restriction is dumb. That's absolutely pointless and simply promotes gerontocracy, which is nobody's favorite thing, as we're experiencing right now with a president who, in my expert medical opinion, and this is a joke for the record, his brains are leaking out the same way he thinks a 9mm causes the lungs to leak out.
Yes, the famed 9mm bolter carried by Space Marines, apparently.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if he thinks it's 9 centimeter. I kind of want to get shot with a 9mm just to prove him wrong now. Maybe I don't. I feel like it would still be painful.
Yeah, hole's a hole,
For the uninformed, Joe Biden claimed that he talked to a medical expert or several medical experts. He didn't make clear who they were. Maybe they talked off the record so that nobody would know how stupid they were. Who said that a 9mm bullet, the same type fired out of a handgun or pistol caliber carbine, will blow the lung out of the body if shot through the chest cavity. This is, of course, bullshit and untrue. But he seems to think it's true, which leads me to think that maybe he got 9mm and shotguns mixed up. Because, I mean, you could get that effect with the right shotgun load. Maybe. But lungs are pretty big, and they don't like to go out small holes. I've ripped a couple lungs out of animals, and they take a lot of work. I'm not sure a 9mm or even a slug would do the same thing.
Yeah, no. Former emergency responder. The lung would just collapse.
You've seen a couple
No.
bullets in lungs, haven't you? You haven't?
I haven't. No,
You're in New York City?
Yeah,
and you
I haven't.
Wow, I guess it's not as bad as I thought.
No. I mean, it just some events are cyclical. So I worked in the street for a little bit, and then I also worked in communications. The shootings tend to happen in the summer in specific boroughs. I mean, this is like documented, right?
Oh, yeah, most of them. People don't like going outside and shooting people when it's cold out. Nobody likes doing anything when it's cold out.
It's a hot girl summer thing. So, but basically,
hot load summer, actually.
Hot load summer, yeah. But basically, it would only puncture the actual wound. I mean the lung, and they would you guys we can pull up the YouTube videos if possible, or maybe just like link someone down, like link it in the description of the video. But the person will basically, they'll still be alive. You can probably talk to them, but it'll hurt them to talk. Like the lung is not going to be coming out of there.
Hang on,
Yeah.
I think I have a used napkin here, but I think I can. Joe Biden thinks that. Well, I'll do what actually happens first. So if you hold up the napkin, that's what a 9mm does. Joe Biden thinks it goes like this, and that.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. No.
Yeah,
That would be silly.
As one wise man once said, pistols put holes in people, rifles put holes through people. What Biden's thinking of are shotguns at the right distance and the right load.
Now, the muzzle blast off of from a rifle could probably push the lung, because muzzle blast is no joke. You have pretty much the same kinetic energy as the bullet, simply in gas form. And I don't know if anybody knows who Gage Grosskreutz is, but the fact that he almost lost his arm is can attest to that. But yeah, a shotgun. If you had a shotgun right against somebody's ribs, we should get like one of those
Ballistic gel
one of
dummies.
those gel dummies and try
dummies,
this.
yeah.
See if we can. Scott, you're audible.
I am
You're
great.
live!
I mean, I was hoping I wouldn't have to do the rest of the podcast in interpretive mime, so at least we're good.
Beautiful.
My night has been ruined now.
Anyway,
No mime, Scott.
Joe
Many a
Biden-
night, yeah.
so Joe Biden continues to know nothing about guns, to the absolute shock of absolute nobody. And honestly, our friend Stephen Gutowski over at The Reload, he took some journalist interns at the National Center for Journalism through a firearms class recently. And I'm beginning to think that should be required for politicians. The only mandatory gun training I support, but you need to know what you're talking about before you start making irresponsible, stupid, wrong-headed, and senile claims about the capabilities of the most common round in America and attempt to ban it. I mean, that's just nutty.
A lot of this
I mean,
kind of
I would
echoes...
be curious, though, like 50 AE out of a Desert Eagle, how would that do? Would that blow the lung out? Probably
It would
not.
still go through because it's a bullet, and it's not a gigantic bullet that would catch the lung. Because that's the fundamental issue here. Lungs are really soft, so like they're made of this really tender tissue. So to for a bullet to catch something and pull it, they would have to be tough and have a lot of integrity for that bullet to be able to if your lung was made out of Kevlar, a 9mm might be able to pull it out of your body because it's softly mounted, and it would catch the lung and collapse it and then pull it through with it. It's possible. I'm not saying if you had a Kevlar lung that would actually happen, but lungs are just too soft for bullets to really grab onto and pull through. So I can't think of really any round that would yank the lung out of the body. That's kind of I'm not going to say impossible, physically extremely improbable. And I'm not a medical expert, but I have, like I said, I've worked with plenty of lungs, just not human ones. But sheep lungs are very similarly sized, taste very good when cooked. I don't know about human lungs, though.
I think this would be a good segue to talk about Mr. Eric Adams, Mayor Adam, his statements.
Oh, yeah, New York State. Well, you're closer to Eric Adams than I am, thankfully. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that guy. He thinks cheese is crack.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
Well, on a side note, Chesa Boudin's out. Speaking of crack.
True.
I mean, the issue there is the openness in selling crack outdoors, basically, which, yeah, that's part of why you got recalled.
Look, I don't care how much crack you do at home in your own house. You can light up crack all day. Please don't do it in a place where you're going to, bother other people. That's just common sense and good manners. We should have common sense crack control.
Well,
that's basically downtown San Francisco.
The first time I was down in the Bay Area, I saw more dicks than I'd seen in the past 6 months, and that was all I needed to know.
Oh man, you really missed the tour of Market Street in downtown San Francisco, because usually it's just like at least 5 homeless people with no pants, like just tweaking in the corner. of every given building and subway stall. It's a sight to behold, and that was pre-COVID, so I can only imagine what it's like now.
It's FDR's paradise, not because of the homeless people, because of the pants off.
Yes, FDR jealous of people with pants because he could not walk. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. Well, as we're in the aftermath of these mass shootings that were, very highly publicized and were simply put, a result of the population being disarmed and, the population being disarmed and the cops pussying out. Let's put it very, very bluntly. We find that the people in charge, as they like to call themselves, are completely fine with the cops being pussies and really, really don't want you to defend yourself. So let's go to what Eric Adams said. TS?
Well, I mean, he made a few statements. I mean, we have the video. Do you guys want me to play it, or?
Let's link it or shove it in afterwards.
Yeah,
I'd like
to
hear your impression of what he said. Because let's
for sure.
talk about this guy, because he said he would carry a gun as New York City mayor, and he never has. So let's hear more about this brave gentleman.
I mean, it's honestly, it's a pony show. Like you said, he brought it up. Oh yeah. I'll carry a gun if I get elected. I want this to be the safest city in New York. He would say, He would ride the train. Again, a lot of it is optics, right? He's doing what he could to get the vote. So he became mayor. He's like, I don't want any private security. Ends up hiring his brother, I think, or his brother, some relative, to head of security now. So he has a security detail. From what we understand, he does not carry a gun, or even if he does, who knows? But he still has a security detail, I think in the press hearing, I think you guys posted it in the press hearing, which I'm assuming will be linked in the description. I mean, he says so many things in that press detail, in that press release. One, he's saying we know a majority of these people. It's a small group of people. He said he's the second politician in New York to say that. Cuomo also the same thing. Oh, it's a small group of people, right? So it's a small group of people, and yet the laws on the books are still on the books, even though the laws are racist, right? Because we know, according to the Supreme Court case, that all these laws are put in place to help protect people, but they don't work.
Well, the Sullivan Act was a result of racism and corruption by the mafia, because they really didn't want some people carrying guns they didn't want.
Right.
Well, in the NFA, wasn't that SBRs? They wanted those banned, and Tommy guns essentially just to eliminate, competition.
Yeah, the NFA, we have basically in writing now. So suppressors were a result of movies. I shit you not, it's actually because of the movies back then. And then SBRs and short barrel shotguns were a direct result of the mob getting clapped by SBRs and short barreled rifles that shopkeepers kept under their counters. So they really wanted that to stop. So they got them restricted to only the people with a lot of money, who happen to be the mob.
Yeah. So it turns out that, I mean, I've read a few things about it where that the Sullivan Act was put in place again so that the guy Sullivan can control his opposition, right? He
Correct.
Can control the corruption. And that I think, again, I read it somewhere online where that it quotes the person who wrote his biography, that he knew it wouldn't work. He knew the licensing scheme would not stop anything. But I think you guys covered it well on social media, was that it's like a cyclical pattern, right? They wait for something bad to happen, do something, and then they do something, right? They take away more rights, and that's kind of like the circle. And I think New York City has a really high rating, and New York as a whole has a high rating for gun control as per every town. But yet, look what happens, right? So back to what, Mayor Adams, he's like, yeah, it's a small group of people. He mentioned in his video that, they know they're not going to get caught. So he talks to the DAs, he's like the judges, and they need to, it's like the DAs and the judges are part of the same political party as you are. Like, and I don't think people realize that, like, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, right? But like, he's like, most of these people don't get out, but some of them have like 3, 4, 5. As per the video, he says that they have 4 or 5 gun charges, and they're constantly being let out, and they're going back in for the same thing. So I don't know. It's just, again, I think it was primed the way the conversation was set up, because I think it was a CNN reporter who asked the question, "Oh, well, what do you think is going to happen with the SCOTUS Supreme Court carry permit?" And he's like, "Oh, it keeps me up at night and all this and that." And he's like, "We have a really strict system here. It's for target shooting. That's what you can have it for." So it's like this man, like, you want my opinion, right? Like, you have this man who took an oath to the Constitution, right? Because the U.S. is a constitutional republic, right? Swore to uphold it, and in that document, in our Bill of Rights, it says that we're able to defend ourselves, right? But he said in his wording, "Oh, hunting and target shooting. Not many people are allowed to carry. Like, it's a privilege." And it's like, in my opinion, again, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, it's a superiority complex. These people do not want people to defend themselves.
Well, let me come at you with a little bit of white pill to that black pill, as it were. And ironically,
Justin Trudeau.
I was about to make
do
a
I really
connection,
sound that
man.
black
You don't have to set me up like that. I don't want to.
Raph, did I really sound black pilled, man?
Yeah, God. A little bit. You sound. I mean, I think it's a consequence of living in New York City, but you sound like you're ready to jump off of something.
God, no.
Yeah, commit self forever sleep. Well, here we are. So Salon.com, 3 days ago, decided to make a very smart play. They wrote an article entitled "When Ronald Reagan's Racism Saved Lives. Armed black men meant immediate gun control." And they're, of course, referring to the Mulford Act. Now, the timing of this is absolutely fucking perfect, as we know that the Supreme Court is considering racism as an aspect in striking down the Sullivan Act, which, I mean, that's kind of crazy. What's more crazy is that Brett Kavanaugh is really taking racism seriously, and he wants to do something about it, which, I mean, props to the guy. He's really making up for whatever he did or did not do, which we're pretty sure he didn't do. At
least we know he likes beer.
He does like beer, and honestly, good for him. But in a moment of self-consciousness, Salon actually changed the article in the title, and they said, "Ronald Reagan's moment of massive historical irony: how armed black men led to gun control." No less racist, worded a little bit more nicely.
So they changed the heading?
They changed the title. 100%.
They tweeted it out as the title, and then it got,
Of course, I mean, but Raph, I mean, I don't mean to come off as black pill, but I think at the end of the day, like, they always say the quiet part out loud, like,
at the end of the day, there are close to 400 million guns in this country, and in the words of FPC, who I don't think I'll get in trouble by quoting, stack up and try.
That's what we're gonna go through. Fuck you, no. That's like also the best.
Oh no, that's the direct response. That's the direct response. And if they keep going, the answer is stack up and try. Or are those plates level 4?
Yeah, that's been one of my
they're not wrong.
favorite responses recently to people demanding, "Oh, we're gonna take your guns." Yet either stack up or shut up.
There was a beautiful tweet from a overweight and proud pansexual activist who looked approximately like
otherwise
Pillsbury Doughboy went on a bender. Actually, very similar, but a little bit more puffed up, a little bit younger.
Can you share it on your screen?
No, I'm not.
Ah.
But this person said, "Oh, well, if the government doesn't want to, make gun control laws, I guess me and my friends are going to have to go house to house and take them ourselves." And that's when I knew that person had never fired a gun in their life. And you'll see a lot of that. And by the way, if somebody's trying to take your gun, especially off of your person, you should check your state laws. But that's a very good way to get shot if you do that to somebody else. Let's put it that way. And they probably will walk, because if you're trying to take somebody else's gun, they have no idea why you're doing that. And the chances of you trying to kill them with it are high, given the incidents we've seen where that's happened. Just a pro tip to anybody who might disagree with us but still watch. That's not the best gun control method. Legislation is probably a smarter idea.
I mean, I agree, and then eventually, I think it all gets thrown out, or some of it does. But just to end off the Adams thing, yeah, I mean, like, I think they're scared. I mean, listening to the wording of that his whole speech, like, I think it's just, again, a show for the people who actually support them. Like, he's like, oh yeah, we're going to make sure people have background checks. Like, I mean, he's a former police officer. He knows he still has to fill out a 4473. Like, he's not stupid. Like, he knows the law because he does own a gun. At least one, right? So, like, I think that a lot of it is just, again, optics. To show their voter base that, oh, we're still going to do something. Meaning, they're just going to, I mean, they're not going to throw out background checks, right? So
New York already has universal background checks. There is no legal way to acquire a gun in New York State at the present moment without filling out a 4473. And in a hot minute here, it'll be very difficult to acquire any practical gun in New York State without either buying a single shot AR and adding the gas tube back in, which is about to get real popular, or filling out a 4473. Well, also filling out a 4473. There's still no way to do it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's all optics. Like, they're just making a show.
No, this guy does know better, and he's just repeating the talking points completely dishonestly. But what do you expect at this point? They don't care. This is not what they want. What they want is control. I mean, there's no other explanation at this point. They want control. Sure. They want to make sure that they feel safe while they stomp on your nuts. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's it. Not literally, maybe literally. I don't know. They used to do that in Soviet Russia. Why not here? We're doing all the same stuff. They starved, a whole branch of my family to death in Soviet Russia. Why not here? What's next? Let's go. We'll go to the gulags, have a good time, and then have some absolutely fantastic writing come out of it. Thank you, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. But I mean, that's the only upside.
Yeah, I mean, we're at least not quite Canada yet, where, like, Trudeau, like, they haven't passed it yet, but he's proposing banning semi-auto handguns as well. So it just kind of goes to show you, arbitrarily ban assault weapons, phase one, then go after semi-auto pistols.
Well, yeah, Heller has already protected semi-auto pistols, being owned. And the hope is that Buren also, which we're still waiting for. I'm on verdict watch for that, or opinion watch for that. But
yeah, I heard it could be as soon as Monday.
It could be as soon as whenever the heck they feel like releasing it, which is probably going to be July at this rate. But essentially, they want to. The thinking is they want to extend that right to, carrying a semi-automatic or carrying a pistol. As opposed to just keeping it in your home, which is already, according to the Supreme Court, a constitutionally protected right under the Second Amendment.
Constitutional carry, baby, fingers crossed.
Yeah. That's stretching it, also, but at this point, never say never.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Well, I mean, there's tons of people that, like, just in the wake of this last shooting are calling to, like, repeal the Second Amendment, but, I mean, realistically, that's never going to happen unless you get a majority of state legislatures to vote with you, so... we at least have that, unlike Canada, which never had a Second Amendment. So, I mean, like, I think the quote from Trudeau is basically like he said last week: you can't use a gun for self-protection in Canada. It's not a right that you have.
So just to add to that, I actually have a nice video that we can add to the description. It's like literally called "The War on Legal Gun Owners." Um, I mean, I was actually listening to it just before we got on. So apparently, they keep on using these emergency powers, right? They don't use legislation. Just to quickly touch on it. So they've been passing all these gun laws
So, are you
through
saying that
emergency
Nancy
power.
Pelosi is Jar Jar Binks?
I was about
No,
to
I'm
make that
talking.
joke. Fuck you for making it first.
I'm sorry.
No, meaning.
These are
Scott,
granted emergency powers to the Supreme Chancellor.
yeah, basically, but basically, they keep on using as in Trudeau. They keep on using these emergency powers, and apparently there's strict outlines for it, and it specifically says in these outlines you cannot use it to take away firearms or do any firearm bans. Highly interesting.
Well, they're announcing legislation. It's not like a de facto ban immediately. And by the way,
Right, but
Canada saw more gun buying than any other time in recent history. Just recently, and it's fantastic to see.
yeah, apparently they all got bought out, but which is, I mean, honestly, like I love it. Like they're kind of they're trying to fight back.
Still cool.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to fight back in their own way, and I kind of give them that, props. But yeah, so I mean, they're kind of playing the same games, and the only reason that they're winning, I mean, the bad guys are winning, like Trudeau, is that they don't have it in their Bill of Rights or their Charter of Rights, so to speak. So we're pretty much fucking lucky as hell. I mean, a lot of states also have it on the state level, where the states even have in their constitution. But
Well, yeah. Several of the
Yeah.
states that have it in their constitution are still bending it. Like Vermont. Vermont has Vermont carry. That's what constitutional carry used to be called, because Vermont was the only state that had it. And then, but they still have a magazine restriction, for example. I believe it's 15 rounds for pistols and 10 rounds for rifles. So even though it's written into their constitution, they're still the place that elected Bernie Sanders. They've got to try something.
yeah, they gotta do something about that.
Well,
That's not
Vermont's
cool.
still a pretty cool place. They're basically America, but more Canada. So they say, "Are you sure about that?" I'm just...
American Canadian light.
I mean, that's what I am at this point. This is where I live. The politics here, it's pretty much Canada. I'm not sure there's really a difference, except I still can't get free healthcare.
Right. Yeah, that's basically Washington and Oregon, where I grew up. Pretty much Canada light.
There you go.
Yeah, apparently the free Canadian healthcare is not what it's cracked up to be.
Well,
I
saw a fun little fact recently, and that's that the people in the UK actually spend more on private healthcare than people in the US. Yeah. And that's on a per capita basis. So the average healthcare Canada, spending in the US is lower than in the UK, despite their vaunted free healthcare, which I just found very interesting.
Well, in Canada, there's like, again, I don't want to, hijack all the time for the healthcare thing, but
we can talk about Canada.
Louder with Crowder.
No, don't talk about that guy.
Wait, hold on. He did a little documentary about it because he's actually Canadian.
I know. He never fails to remind me.
And I actually spoke to someone I went to college with recently, and she actually moved to Canada from New York. And she was like, so I was like, oh, so how's Canada? How do you like it? She's like, well, the taxes are really high and the free healthcare sucks. I was like, wow, I'm surprised you're actually honest about it. She's like, yeah, there's no point. But yeah, apparently the free healthcare is so bad up there that the government had to like loosen up on the privatization of it. So yeah, anyone listening to this, universal healthcare is not what it's cracked up to be. All right.
Well, I'm sure that in America we could do it better than any other country because we are the best. And in Texas, all the hospitals would be 5 times the size. However, maybe it's an idea that should be approached with some caution. There we go. Now, speaking of free healthcare in Texas and oversized things, David Hogg is somehow still relevant, according to himself, despite taking every single fake tip in the world on Twitter. So somebody came up with a gun control bill, which essentially they came up with the name of the bill and made it spell a rude word. So you know how you have the Patriot Act, which stands for something. You have the SAFE Act in New York, which also stands for tyranny. But you have names like that. This one spelled a rude word, and so they DM'd it to him as a hot tip about what the NRA was planning, and this absolute beast of a manly man, David Hogg, sucked it up, and he believed it. And then he tweeted about it, and then he deleted it. But he still bought it. Anyway, he's still running this March for Our Lives thing, which is essentially a movement based around marching over incorrect facts about guns, and claiming many things, very few of which are true, including David Hogg being human, or him talking about his dad who's a Fed. So there's definitely no connection there to anything that he thinks. But yeah, they're running marches all over the country now, and it's I don't think anybody's really noticed, but it's happening. Supposedly, I'm told.
Yeah, there was a pretty big one today in Washington. I mean, it's hard to tell always with crowd sizes and whatnot, but it looked pretty sizable, and I guess it was kind of followed up in a lot of major cities. Didn't really see anything where I am, but then again, I'm not in downtown San Francisco where they typically have a lot of those rallies, so who knows?
Yeah, so they're pretty much towing the party line at this point, talking about how veganism makes you buff. Oh, no. They're talking about how the age should be raised to 21. They're pretty much just a lobbying group trying to get kids on board with their stuff. But they're worth paying attention to, namely to show how much you too, as a victim of anorexia, can accomplish.
Yeah, well, let me rephrase that. One of those marches happened in my city. I was actually just reading up on it earlier. And I say funny, not as a ha-ha funny, but a kind of almost ironic hilarity, that the main point of the march in Philly was to call for an end to the violence that happens in areas and parts of like West Philly and North Philly, with quite a few number of people involved in the march going, oh, I know my brother, my cousin, a friend of mine that was shot on his porch on the street, blah, 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 blah. We need to have gun control to stop it. And I had to stop reading, and I racked my brain for a whole half hour just thinking to myself, what gun control measures, if implemented, would have prevented a felon from illegally carrying a firearm that he was too young to own?
That's a really great question. Maybe banning 3D printers. Oh wait, we shouldn't give them ideas.
I had actually a great conversation with someone today who was actually very open-minded. And I think podcasts like these, I know you guys actually created a brochure with like a bunch of facts, so maybe we should put that in the description as well. But I think just breaking down how all these things don't actually work for people who actually are willing to listen makes a huge difference.
You want to? Let's do a breakdown real quick. So 9mm blowing the lung out of the body, we broke down. Let's do this 21 thing, because this has actually been pissing me off. So raise the age to 21 because school shooters tend to be under the age of 21. Cool. So first of all, as I've said many times, if you know a place in a non-legal state where you can buy weed, you're also able to buy a gun. It will not work. That is stupid. Banning drugs doesn't work. Banning guns also doesn't work. The U.S. has a ton of border, and guns get in. Even if you were to eradicate all guns inside the United States, guess what? People would still get them. People say, oh no, but the UK, Australia. Guess what? They're fucking islands. It's harder to ship things onto islands than on countries where we share a border with a country that is literally run by cartels, many of whom we actually gave guns to, and now they can sell them back to us for a profit. Wow, good for us. Go us.
Hey, Raf, can I cut you off for a second, or actually add on to what you were saying?
Go ahead.
So, as per Amy Swearer, who's a legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation, she submitted, and she keeps on submitting the same documents to congressional hearings. And apparently, most of the shooters at these quote unquote mass shootings are actually above the age of 21. So this has been studied. Just wanted to add
You're
to that.
halfway right. So the definition of a mass shooting is 4 or more people shot.
Mm.
So people in gang shootings, stuff like that, the things that actually, you know, comprise the bulk of mass shootings, tend to be can often be over 21. School shootings are usually kids who are either in school or were recently, because in general, shooting up schools is not an adult activity or a, you know, older adult activity, because that's stupid. It's stupid anyway, but it's just like, it's cringy if you're 35 and you're shooting up a school. Like, come on, dude.
Right. But also saw some recent thing about the UK. So guns are actually being smuggled into the UK as of like.
Oh no!
I think
I don't mean to cut off pedantism, because I am a big fan of pedantism, which means being pedantic, for the record. But you know, they do exist in Australia and the UK. I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying they're even easier to get into the US than the UK. Also, the UK is having this little problem where people are 3D printing guns. And I just want to say, ha ha ha, fuck you. So is Australia. People are printing guns all over the place, and they're suppressing the story because they don't want people to know that you can do this. Unfortunately, the internet exists, and they're getting shafted by that. But back to 21. So, you know, you can, up until a couple years ago, you could buy cigarettes at 18. You can sign legally binding contracts at 18. That is the age of majority. There is no legal argument for why you should be able to cut off certain rights at the age of 21. For example, free speech. Guess what? Guess who would throw an absolute shit fit if people didn't get the ability to speak freely without fear of recourse from government until they were 21? You know exactly who, and it's the exact same people who want to ban guns before you're 21. Guess who would throw an absolute hissy fit if you couldn't, you weren't immune to search and seizure until you were even 18. You still have protection against search and seizure, unreasonable search and seizure, before you turn 18. So where on earth did we get this absolutely fucking brain deficient vegan brain idea that rights don't kick in until you're a certain age, and that age is arbitrary? If it's a human right, it's a human right. And if somebody doesn't have the capability to make decisions for themselves reasonably, some rights can be restricted until a certain age where they're able to make decisions for themselves, legally speaking. However, there isn't an age where suddenly people become reasonable. Some people stay really fucking stupid their entire lives, and that's how you know which people are trying to make these laws. It is an absolutely nonsensical idea that won't prevent jack shit, and that's because of the first point I went over. If you want a gun in the United States, you can get a gun, and no matter what laws you pass, that's going to be the case for at least 100 years after those laws pass. So you won't help anything, and by the time you have helped anything, we'll probably have phased plasma pistols in the 40-watt range. So fuck off, stack up and try, or just stop trying, because you've already lost the culture. All right.
Well, my biggest thing is, like, you know, I mean, just to go back what we were talking about earlier before the podcast, I mean, it makes no sense for you to be able to be drafted at 18 and be able to vote at 18, but not have every single right. So it's like, you know, be consistent. If they raised everything to 21, then they'd have a better argument, I would feel.
Well, they'd have to raise absolutely everything. And unfortunately for them, there's this really handy thing called the Constitution. And normally, you know, we have to rely on, you know, reasonable interpretations of the Constitution. But this time we can rely on explicit interpretation of the Constitution. So this one's really fun. So in the Constitution, the militia is defined, or at least in the notes to the Constitution, the militia is defined as being all able-bodied males between the ages of 18 and, I believe, 45. Now, that's really interesting because the Second Amendment specifies that a well-regulated, meaning well-functioning militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, I'm no legal scholar, but that sure sounds like at least adult males from the ages of 18 to 45 are being given the right to keep and bear arms explicitly, you know, based off of the Constitution's own language. Now, taking that even further, under the Equal Protections Clause, now that means that everyone 18 to 45, you know, of all ages, or of all races is being given that right, and with the 19th Amendment, gender too. So now, where are we at now? So now only people who are over 45 or under 18 can be restricted. Well, there's no point in restricting people over 45. Old people don't shoot things. Like, that doesn't happen. Hickok 45 notwithstanding. And, well, there we are. We've just built a complete constitutional case for why this is a fucking stupid idea. All right.
And
second rant over.
In terms of the whole Constitution thing, I think a lot of people in recent memory have been glossing over a very concerning statement made by the president, where he said no amendment was absolute.
Oh, really?
And for those of us who are minorities in this country, that should be a chilling statement coming from one of the most powerful leaders of the free world.
Yeah, that ranks right up there with his statement about you need fighter jets to take on the government. It's like, oh, do we? Okay, well, how do I do that? That was a joke, Mr.
Weren't people posting some funny stuff online, like, oh, look, we're buying F-15s.
Okay, so it
like
is.
they're a lug.
So, there's a set of forms, 1 through whatever number, you can get from the ATF to buy certain restricted items. Now, most of those forms are for destructive devices. You can also fill out a Form 4 to get a suppressor. You can, I believe, Form 3 for an auto rifle that was built before 1986. There are different forms you fill out to get different items. Eugene can correct me on this. However, if you're an FFL and you have access to that database, you can take a peek around and find out there is indeed a form for registering a nuclear weapon, which means that it is actually completely legal for a civilian with the correct permits to own a nuke in the United States. And I just want to say I fucking love this country.
And fun fact, as long as you do get it registered, it's completely legal to build your own nuclear device.
Yeah. It's just a destructive device with, 80 to 400,000 times the power of the equivalent amount of TNT. I don't see a problem with that. And I think private citizens are more invested in keeping the world running than politicians who would stay alive anyway. So, big deal. Yeah. Well, let's see. There's
fun times.
Oh, we live in interesting times. It's like that ancient Chinese curse that I'm not sure if it's real or not, but it's funny. May you live in interesting times. So,
Has anyone heard of the hardened collider weasel theory?
No, this sounds fascinating though. Tell us.
Yeah, so it's basically the large hardened collider, which is designed
the large hadron collider. I thought you were saying the large hard-on collider, and I was very confused.
Yes, the
that's a very different theory there, Raph.
Otherwise known as Grinder. Sorry.
Oh, you.
Oh, boy. But yeah, anyway, the Hadron Collider, basically, studying the laws of physics in the universe. And apparently in like 2019 or something, a weasel wandered into the facility and got caught in the beam somehow. This is a true story. It's like actually on NPR and everything like that. And so the theory is that because of this, we've just been knocked into the batshit alternate universe where anything that could go wrong is going wrong.
Wait, this happened in 2019?
We're living in now. Yeah, like 2019, like fairly recently.
When in 2019?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up again. I'll try to find it here.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious, because if it happened like in the first half of 2019, that would mean that weasel, we're going to call it the weasel virus now.
Yep.
Let's see.
I'm looking up the timeline here. Oh, sorry, 2016, April of 2016, the weasel chewed into one of the electrical transformers.
2016?
Short circuit and yep.
That's
April
even better.
2016.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, right before Trump got elected and everything.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. Yep, we live in
so much.
Oh, okay. It is now confirmed we live in the weirdest timeline. All right. Well, we're running a little long and we have more news to get through. Let's see. March for Our Lives is let's call it a nothing hot dog. It's not even thick enough to be a burger. Now, let's see. The House passed a gun reform package, which is pretty much what happened in New York State. It's not going to move forward in the Senate.
In the Senate, yeah.
However, Mittens Romney approves because Mittens Romney he's a Massachusetts guy at heart, which means that he thinks he's better than everyone and then would actually lose in a fist fight to anyone from the Midwest. It's like those memes, the strongest Massachusetts, and I don't know what they call themselves, or the weakest Midwesterner.
Well, I mean, he is Mormon, so at least he'd be sober.
You know what?
Doing it,
I want to
so he
see
has that advantage.
I want to see the leaked pictures of Mitt Romney with a furry tail butt plug in. I don't want to see them actually. I just want to know they exist. And with that,
yeah, I mean, how many wives does he really have? That's inquiring minds want to know.
I want to know how many husbands.
Well, considering he's still a politician, apparently not enough.
Good point. He needs to get in touch with whoever Eric Swalwell was banging. I hear China, the Chinese government specifically, was trying to get him on their side, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So some GOP senators say that they think they're going to be able to reach a deal with Democrats on gun control, which is concerning for me because it makes me think that either they've seen polling data we haven't seen, or actually they just want to try to look good and they think that passing something, probably a 21 semi-auto law, will do anything or give them support. I don't know what they have to worry about, frankly. The Democrats' only hope at not getting completely trounced with a veto-proof majority in the midterms is this January 6th show they're putting on. And that's about it at this point. I don't know what the GOP is worried about here, and I really wish they'd stop compromising where we don't get anything and they get more. They get something they want.
In fact, you could say we lose things.
Yeah, and at this point, it's going to be our fucking minds. I mean, I would really love to see some actual compromise. Okay, raise the age to 21 for semi-auto rifles and repeal the NFA. Very cool. I'm fine with that.
Or, hey, now you have to be 21 to vote and to be drafted and to buy a gun. Mm-hmm. Congratulations. All your rights have been increased.
Yeah. I'd be... well, never mind about that. Let's see. So, SCOTUS decisions are coming up. Supreme Court of the U.S., and I have a video in the pipeline about why exactly this is a big deal that I need to finish recording because I lost my voice midway through the last one because I was yelling a little bit. But that should be popping up on our YouTube channel sometime soon because I have strong feelings and I have some strong opinions about the Supreme Court decision coming up. And Boudin got ousted, but I think we already covered that on air, didn't we?
Yeah, the only interesting thing to note about that is that he was ousted by largely a majority of Asian voters in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, like, gee, I wonder
coming
why.
out in massive numbers, like something like, I mean, it was something like 90% of the Asian vote came out in favor of the recall, which is not surprising considering they're the ones that have to live with his really shitty social justice reform policies, recycling criminals out of the system who like go on to repeat offend and attack mostly older Asian Americans in the San Francisco area, which is like
sounds a lot like New York City.
I mean, it's
cough, cough.
It really sounds like well, it's probably a good thing they were able that you guys were able to do this because I hear rooftops are getting more and more expensive out your way. So it's probably a good thing you didn't have to take to the rooftops.
Yeah, thankfully my rooftop is rent controlled, so no worries there if anything happens in the near future. Yeah,
there you go. So you actually have a rooftop that you can work with. That's excellent. I'm really glad to hear that. But yeah, it's not the 90s anymore. Rooftops are expensive these days, so it turns out that you have to take a few other desperate measures first.
There's not a single gun store in the San Francisco city limits either.
What an
like
absolute
the last one closed
shock.
in 2007.
I'm amazed.
Pretty crazy.
I tell you.
Definitely not a coincidence. Definitely not.
Probably. Well, it's a sign of the times, but it's not necessarily not a coincidence.
I mean, it is interesting though, because California is just in general. I mean, it's like outside of the big cities, it is kind of like upstate New York, where it's more rural, more people are open to it. Tons of gun stores outside of like San Francisco proper.
Yeah, well, they're trying to kill it up here. Well, well, we kind of skipped around a little bit, but Trudeau says that you can't use a gun for self-protection in Canada, and it's not a right that you have, which is partially true. However, if you want to find out more about Canadian gun law, I highly recommend a YouTuber by the name of Runkle of the Bailey, which is spelled like uncle, but with a K, with an R at the beginning. And then Bailey, as in Bailey's Irish cream, the finest Irish cream this side of the Mississippi, or that side of the Mississippi. But he's a gun lawyer in Canada, which is not a thing you'd think you'd need. But he is one. They exist, apparently. And he looks like an elf from Lord of the Rings, which is even funnier. Because you think he'd be a bow lawyer, but no, he's a gun lawyer. And then, of course, Bill Maher, who's been getting more and more interesting over the past couple of years. He's been blaming mass shootings in part on Hollywood's unbridled romanticization of gun violence. Now, this is something I hadn't thought about before, because of course I've seen the takes of people blaming it on video games, blaming it on, rap music, which, I mean, both of those I can see the case for them. Rap sometimes has glorifications of violence in it. In video games, well, I mean, not only do you shoot people, you teabag them. I mean, that's just rude. So I was kind of interested by that, because when you think about it, if you watch any movie through the eyes of somebody who's living in the real world and might carry a gun, Hollywood really, really, really gets it wrong. And it's really interesting to think about. I was like hoping for everyone's thoughts on this, because we you see in a movie just casually shooting somebody, and you're like, wait a second, would that be legally justified perfect self-defense, or would that be oh, you're going to jail for 30 to life because that's first degree murder? Which one is it? Maybe there's a point there. Anybody?
Yeah, I will say one of the funniest things that I've seen working at the range are people who'd come in, and I'd ask them, like, oh, have you ever shot a gun before? And they're like, no, but I have played a lot of Battlefield. And when they get into that range with a live weapon, it is a very different time for them.
Try Tarkov.
Especially 2041, because that game's a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, nobody likes that game. No, if you actually want a slightly more realistic firearms experience, play Tarkov. It sucks.
Sans the recoil that they try and simulate.
Well, actual recoil is not that bad if you're used to it and aren't skinny.
Yeah.
But
it seems strange that in Tarkov, as a rather buff mercenary with years of experience behind a weapon, that you struggle to keep a full auto AK on set target.
To be fair, it's probably overcast, and you're probably starving. So,
fair enough.
Realism
is why I blame PUBG. I suck at that game because of the realism.
See,
I don't know.
I just disconnected entirely. I play Destiny, where the guns run on space magic, and therefore everything makes sense.
Destiny's good
if you base it off of that. Yes, this gun contains this is literally made out of a god that we crammed into a gun. So of course it has a 50-round magazine and a tiny little pistol. That's fine.
I recently got back into Destiny 2, and I got a bow randomly for the first time, and bows are actually really fun in that game.
Go to the exotic kiosk, get Leviathan's Breath, get some heavy ammo, load it up, see what happens. That bow is way too much fun. Also, I have to add you on Destiny now, because we got to play some Crucible.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Always, I know. I always need to find friends to do a raid, and everybody's far beyond me, so you definitely have to do that.
I also have some people I've been trying to get through Vault of Glass forever now. Anyway, enough asides.
Yeah.
Although I want a Gallarhorn in real life. Thank you very much. But I mean, I think that he might have a point, Bill Maher. I think we could blame some degree of the romanticization of guns, of gun violence. Guns are romantic as fuck. On Hollywood and how they treat, firearms. If you're a good guy, they're cool and you can do whatever you want. Trigger discipline isn't a big deal. And if you're bad, the guns are bad.
Well, and the interesting angle that he had about it was more about the revenge fantasy story that is a big part of most heavy gun oriented things. It's John Wick, his dog got killed. You know, other ones, it's like my girlfriend got killed, my parents got killed, and then it's like, you know, the whole movie is basically just them going around and getting revenge on society that wronged them, which is kind of like, you know, that he kind of has a point in that aspect.
call
I mean,
them-
I feel like if you're kind of fucked up in the head, you see that, maybe you would sort of relate to it a little bit.
I mean, that's what the Buffalo shooter was doing. He was getting revenge on a society that he felt wronged him. Now, of course, he was a fucking racist, and his express goals were disgusting. However, he felt society had wronged him, and if you change a couple of the motivations, you know, you'd have a great movie. Maybe everyone in that store was in the mob, and then it would be fine. Goodfellas 8 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'm honestly like surprised no one's become the Punisher yet.
Rip,
you know,
Rip Ray Liotta.
There you go.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that that was not actually the case. That there are some very messed up people in this world, and no legislation's ever going to get rid of that evil.
Well, New York's law sure didn't stop him.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and it's like at the end of the day, I mean, it's like, yeah, you can blame anything you want, but mental illness, chief and foremost. I mean, I don't think watching Die Hard is going to make you want to go to an elementary school and be a complete monster, you know?
I think you have a point there. Maybe it is. Maybe we could. Well, I mean, also mass shootings weren't really a thing when Die Hard came out, and they weren't for many years afterwards. And Die Hard is also, well, it's not a revenge fantasy. It's a guy getting. It's Bruce Willis with fewer clothes on.
They ruined his Christmas.
Getting chased around a skyscraper by some
movie.
weird ass Germans, one of whom was British. Like, I mean, I wouldn't mind having that Christmas. That sounds like an interesting time. But, you know, something like John Wick, well,
as long as you have shoes.
Always bring shoes with you. I'm a barefoot fan, but if you're in a skyscraper with lots of glass, it's not worth it. And that actually does round out our news for the week. There is plenty of it. However, we just don't have the time to go into depth on most of it, unfortunately. I'll be making some videos breaking down some of these topics for our lovely viewers, just so you can get a little bit more context on what's actually going on. What does this mean? Why is this a big deal? What's the big deal about, you know, Glock versus SIG? Should I care? Why do people make fun of Taurus? These and more coming soon to this very YouTube channel near you, and we can put Eugene and me into a slap fight about what brands are better. As long as we all agree to bow down to the great and sacred Beretta, I think we'll be fine.
Yes.
They do make a fantastic shotgun.
They make the prettiest guns too. They just anybody who's watching.
That's my first shotgun.
I would highly recommend just looking up the Beretta M9A3. Take a peek at that piece of ass, and I mean literally the back strap, we call it, the ass of the gun, is gorgeous. The gun itself is an Italian supercar. It's a work of art. It's lovely. It's beautiful, and you almost forget that it can be used for great acts of violence, because you honestly just want to put it up on your wall and frame it and never use it because it's so damn pretty. And I mean, you know what?
Yeah,
if that can happen with a gun, I think that's beautiful and artwork in itself.
I have been tempted to do that, honestly. I mean, it just would be completely dangerous because I have a kid in the house there. But I do have two 92 FSs. I've got a black one and an Enox one, which is silver. So it would be cool to put in like a coat of arms type thing, just hanging on the wall. But I'm pretty sure my wife would divorce me if I did that. So, you know.
Hey, you just gotta show her the beauty that is Beretta Firearms, and let her know that she needs to appreciate such works of art.
It truly is the Mercedes of guns. Well, actually, no, because it's Italian. Sorry.
Well, it also works, so it's not. It continues to run, and it's reliable.
It's the Ferrari of guns, I guess.
Nope, still no. Maybe Lexus. Lexus.
Shit.
Maybe.
What's a good Italian car brand that doesn't break down all the time?
There aren't any.
That's
I have a coworker who bought an Alfa Romeo, and within 2 weeks the front fell off. I shit you not, the front fell off.
My father was looking at one as part of his retirement package, And after realizing, for one, the costs of the car itself, and then also the intense maintenance that he's going to have to pay for a week after he drives it off the lot, he's like, you know what? Maybe I'm okay with that one.
It's like a Maserati, but worse. But I mean, it was actually really funny.
Yeah.
Like the front literally fell off. It's like that classic sketch, a bit of Fry and Laurie. Or no, it's not a bit of Fry and Laurie. It's hilarious sketch. Well, the front fell off.
It's like the joke about owning a Rolls Royce. You better buy one with a in-house mechanic.
I mean, Rolls Royce doesn't have any real reliability issues. At least not anymore. But they're basically overbuilt BMWs at this point. Don't tell them I gave away their trade secret.
I drive a Honda Accord, so the money I save on maintenance I can spend on guns and ammo.
Actually, you know what? There's a really good closing question. Everybody, what's your favorite
Tesla.
What's your favorite gun brand and your favorite car brand?
Well, I mean, Tesla makes sense because the same thing with the gas prices being what they are, you can just spend that on ammo as opposed to, $100 every time you're filling up your car.
Yep.
If I had to pick a favorite gun brand, I would honestly have to probably give that vote to CZ.
Oh, you're a member of the Church of CZ, I see. I'm just mad they don't make the 2075 Remy anymore, because that gun, sickest looking subcompact Micro 9 ever.
The only thing that I think if CZ made would set me permanently on the path of CZ would be a 75 and 10 millimeter.
I just have to adjust the way I'm sitting now. Mm-hmm. That sounds...
But, that's... Yeah, that would be great. And I keep praying that every day that one day CZ will announce that they are making a 10 millimeter 75 or SPO1. And it is at that point I will break my no Gen 1, no pre-order rule.
And buy one immediately. Yeah, that makes total sense to me.
Yes.
All right. I mean,
does the Scorpion come in 10 mil?
No, unfortunately, only in 9.
I can probably give a reasonable one on this. My favorite car brand is almost certainly Tesla at this point. I've had one for a couple of years, and they're amazing. Now, completely unrelated, my favorite gun brand is definitely Sig Sauer, simply because they make everything, and they make a lot of really nice things. If you want an absolutely lovely non-AR-15 5.56 rifle, they make that in the SP556, whatever the fuck the model number is. They make some absolutely fantastic guns. They essentially invented the modern more than 10 rounds Micro 9 trend. They have the P320, one of the beefiest, meanest pistols on the planet, and they I actually don't know about their shotgun lineup, but I assume it's
I will say that SIG's push into the fire control unit market was probably one of the smartest things to do.
Absolutely.
I'm not a huge fan of SIGs personally, but I understand the reason why they are so loved, and I think the FCU idea was a brilliant thing that more gun companies should jump on.
Now, the really fun part here is I like my Tesla because it can drive itself, and I like Gen 1 SIG handguns because they fire themselves.
Yeah. Turn that hammer fired into a real hammer fire.
Yeah, Scott, for California, some Sig Sauers that you guys can't have because they're too scary for you, had a problem where if you dropped them, they'd go off because they weren't made quite right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry you can't
sound like a candidate for the
I'm
safe
sorry you
handgun
can't
roster.
have nice things.
Well, technically you can, but you have to overpay by buying it via PPT from either law enforcement, which that's just a complete racket. I mean, they're supposedly cracking down on it like this year to do some new regulations, but in past years, like literally cops just buy whatever they want because they're exempt from the roster rules and then wait about a month, fire it a couple times and say, I didn't like this very much. I am going to sell it to you as a PPT, and that's like the loophole.
Yep.
And it's still most of anything you want, like P320s, like, I mean, what is regular MSRP for those? Like $599 or something in like most states?
One of the big selling points for the
P320 is
that
$1,500 to $2,000.
One of the big selling points for the P320 is that you can, it's a 20 round gun, I believe.
Yeah.
Let me check. And I mean, honestly, what's the point of having a 20 round gun in California?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you basically like, even if you
Oh,
do
no, it's
buy
7.
with a PPT, the magazines have to be blocked to 10 rounds, or they just like can't sell you them with the
Oh,
magazine.
boy.
Yeah, the full size
Yeah.
the full size is 21. That's what I was remembering. Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just a shame. So Scott, you said Tesla. What's your favorite gun brand?
I'd probably have to say Beretta, just because for reasons we said before. I mean, I even went and got the APX, which is like their like tactical tuna version of an AR. It's beautiful. It's fun.
Italy actually has relatively pleasant gun laws, as in like for Europe, it's pretty cool. You can like have guns and do cool stuff. Oh wait, TS.
Yeah.
I know you. Since you're in New York City, you're not allowed to have cars or guns. But
Oh,
you know,
well, I have a
theoretically,
car.
whoa,
Well, I
you
have
must be a high roller out there, man.
Oh yeah.
not.
But what is?
Well, no, I needed one for my last job, so
Yeah,
I
might
still
as
have it.
well sell it now. But what is your favorite gun brand? Assuming you've seen one in your life ever.
Well, I have. I've traveled to other states.
You traded in
Tasting
New
the
York
freedom
City.
on the outside.
Is it? So,
I mean,
somebody told me once it's illegal for you to be in the same room with a gun, with a handgun.
No,
if you
it's
touch
don't
them.
in
have
New
a
York
permit.
City.
Touch them.
In New York
Is
City,
that true?
so in New York City, as the law is currently written, which is why the mayor is shitting his pants. Aptly, he should. As it's written, it is illegal for an unlicensed person. So, meaning if you don't have a license for a handgun, you cannot physically touch a handgun. If you do, I think it's like a felony or something.
Class E felony. That's correct.
Something like that. The only gun you can shoot in New York City without a license is a .22 rifle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
New York City is.
I know this from speaking.
It's the worst place ever.
I know this from speaking to one of the three. What do you call them? FFL/gun ranges in New York City. I think we have like 3 or 4, which is, again, I know might be surprising, but there's like 3 or 4 in the entire New York City area, 5 boroughs. I know.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So yeah, I little loud in the background. Sorry about that, guys. But
No worries.
as far as favorite brands, I mean, when these laws change and or I leave this godforsaken place, I'm eyeing a P320 with.
Oh come on! You can't steal mine. You got to take Glock for the team. Come on, man.
No, hold on. No, I'm not taking Glock. I'm eyeing a P320, the compact, with a, what is that grip? I can't think of the name of the grip. It's a cool grip though. Aftermarket. Wilson compact grip.
That's
that's
a way to go.
Yeah, and I'm probably gonna get a. I know you guys are gonna hate me. A Taurus G3.
Why?
Not this. I've shot it. It's cool.
Put it this way: do you
Kinda
ever
like
want to
it.
jerk off again? Because your right hand is not going to be working too good after that Taurus magic gets to you.
Listen, you guys ask me questions. I'm telling you my initial gun
And
purchases.
I'm asking
my
you
first gun
questions right back.
Sometimes you just need to experience it to understand why people say things.
Well,
So
case
I
in
mean, I've
point-
shot it before. I've shot
I'm
it
not gonna
before. It's
sway
not
ya.
a terrible
Yeah.
gun.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
the
will say-
P320, in my opinion, is better than the.
You know what?
G3.
I'll build you a special one-handed keyboard for when the inevitable occurs.
I will say,
You think the gun's gonna explode?
Yes.
oh,
God.
100%.
Yeah, we will. You will have no hands left. Bye-bye.
I will say, though, that from Taurus, the TX-22 is probably one of my favorite 22 caliber handguns that is still handgun shaped in a weird way to put it. And it's probably the only Taurus I would ever buy.
Well, also, it doesn't have enough
I mean,
energy to.
at least nobody
you know,
said Springfield.
It doesn't have enough energy to really explode. So
Yeah.
yeah, sure, go for it. I mean, it does. That looks. What the fuck? What is that? It looks like it has a dent in its head. Huh.
It is a Taurus, so
Okay, fair enough.
par for the course.
Well, hey, if that works,
I mean, it looks pretty cool.
yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and I
for
obviously want an AR. That's pretty
like
much the initial dream sheet.
$250, it's a great 22 suppressor host.
Yeah, see, I actually really like a lot of Taurus's design sense, and that's why I'm really hoping someday they build, a nice gun that doesn't explode. You can torture test it, just will not die.
I have not heard any bad things about the G3.
However,
I'm just
Taurus
saying.
also
Or the
builds a
G2C.
gun called the THC. So
I don't know.
what?
They knew what they were doing
I have
with that.
completely 100% changed my mind. My favorite firearms manufacturer is now Keltec because cocaine, and my second favorite is Taurus.
Fair enough.
However,
Followed closely by High Point.
one little tiny thing that happened is that Keltec released this thing called the P15, which is this absolutely lovely 15+1 9mm handgun that's 14 ounces, and looks really, really fucking dope. So they made this little tiny concealed carry gun, and here's the real kicker. So a Glock 19 is about 1.1 inches wide. It's not a big gun. It's not a small gun. It fits in your hand pretty well. And it's 1.1 inches wide, which is considered, pretty standard. This P15 from Keltec has the same capacity, is the same length, is slightly shorter, and is 0.875 inches wide, and still has 15+1 rounds of capacity, exactly the same as the Glock 19.
Yeah, I'd rock that.
It looks so absolutely dope.
Yeah, I think it has like tritium sights too.
Yeah, no, it has all the bells and whistles. And I'm looking forward to getting one when I leave.
I mean that grip safety though, I'm not a fan of that grip safety.
They include the instructions for disabling it.
Maybe
they do include the instructions, so you can completely disconnect it.
I can dig it. I do want the Keltec shotgun though.
Which one?
I think
KS7, KSG.
I think
the KS7 is the one with the integrated carry handle sight. The KSG is the dual mag tube bullpup shotgun.
And of course,
that one
there's the KSG
malfunctions.
There's the KSG 25, which can you spell
it
overkill?
Looks a little weird. Yeah.
It has a lot of kick though.
No,
the dual.
The 25 has less kick than most shotguns. It's much bigger and much heavier. Well, heavier.
And
not
holds a
necessarily
lot
bigger.
more.
Yeah, I mean, how on earth are you supposed to have 12 plus 12 2 3/4 inches shells in a shotgun? That's just ridiculous. I love it.
I don't know. That's a bit much for me. But I did shoot it though when I was in Texas. I mean, it did malfunction a bit. It was a pain in the ass for it to the selector in the pick which barrel was all weird. I was like, that's too much.
I mean, the KSG Compact is probably the best choice for anybody. It's this lovely little 8-round shotgun in a exactly 26.1 inches long package, which is
I'm probably gonna get that too.
I'm
just
still
fantastic.
a bit of a FUD when it comes to shotguns. I always recommend that if you're going to get an old shotgun, get a Remington 870 Police Magnum. If you're getting something new, a Mossberg 590 is a great way to start.
The KS series has been around for a while.
More. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna KS7 it.
Yeah,
KS7 for the win.
The KS series has been around for a while, and they're generally considered reliable and functional. So I mean, nothing's gonna beat a Mossberg 870. Like those things are untouchable, top of the top, peak, beautiful, lovely shotguns. But you're not gonna
before I traded mine, I used my 590 as my home defense weapon.
Yeah,
I loaded it up with
590 is the shockwave,
buckshot
right?
and slugs. No, the 590 is the heavy barreled full shotgun.
Right. I forget which one the
and I had the
shockwave is.
A1 variant, which had the ghost ring sights. And fun fact about a shotgun with a heavy barrel, it's a great melee weapon.
Oh, I believe it. I care too much about my guns to use them as melee weapons, but I definitely believe it. Yeah.
It is kind of fun if you have a shockwave just to, pretend it's a lightsaber or something. It's, bird's head grip. It's a good time. Or a gun blade from Final Fantasy VIII.
I can see it. All right, well, we've run out of news.
Put a little bayonet on it.
And we've run out of topics.
Yep.
And it's much later for me than it is for you.
Yeah.
It's later for all of you
than it is for you.
for me. So yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right, guys.
As it will always be.
So yeah, gun of the week.
Guys, I'm gonna
Gun of the
go.
week is the Taurus THC, simply because of the name. It's absolutely hilarious.
Well, good night, everyone.
Good
Stay
night,
safe.
everyone.
And yeah, make sure to write to your any representatives you have, and please urge them to strongly
Congressmen,
strongly urge
senators.
them in civil terms to vote against whatever gun legislation I'm sure is trying to be passed near you, unless you're in one of the few states that's absolutely awesome.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks again for listening, everyone. Be sure to check us out on social media. We'll leave our information in the show notes, along with all the other links. And yeah, this has been the AAPI Go podcast for June 11th, and we'll see you next time. Peace.